So, I wasn't always this tall. Freshman year of high school, I was so pumped up. I was 5 feet 2 inches tall, 115 pounds soaking wet. I had just moved to a brand new state. I'd moved from Louisiana to Texas. I was super excited. New town, new state, high school, right? I'd even signed up for this class called basketball. Now, I just thought it was PE, normally, right? But I learned quickly that in Texas, things are a little bit different. So I get to third block class of basketball, and it turns out it really is basketball, like the whole program. And it's an actual class, and we have it every day because they take it really seriously in Texas. So I'm in there. The coach realizes I'm the only new kid in the room. So he goes, "Hey, Schafer, introduce yourself." So in kind of a prepubescent 14-year-old voice, I go, I'm Grant, probably about that level. And again, no one said anything. And then he goes, "Well, tell him where you're from." So I said, I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana." Thank you. I'll get your beer after. And again, no reaction to that. So then he says, "Hey, tell him, what does that mean? What language is that?" Okay, all right. Well, it's French for red stick. Well, after the room stopped laughing, I realized 3 things, right? 1, to this group of guys, for the rest of my high school career, I was not going to be Grant. I was going to be red stick. 2, I realized this whole time my neck was hurting because I was looking up at everyone, okay? The whole basketball program, the tallest freshman was 6'6", the juniors and seniors were 6'8" and 6'9", and here I was 5'2", so I realized I think of my future as like a 3rd string water boy at this point. In case the 1st and 2nd string water boy hurt their back or something, I could definitely be in good to go. So I don't think I would ever see the court. The 3rd thing I realized, these people don't do French. I'm in South Central Texas, and I've got to go with the native language, the original language of Texas, which is Spanish. So I committed to Spanish, right? 4 years of it, and I learned a few things. One thing I learned was the vocabulary word for flirting, which is piropos, which in 9th grade, I didn't do a lot of that, but I got a little bit better as I got older. I also learned about entrepreneurship. So one thing in South Central Texas, if any of you have ever lived there or from there, people love breakfast tacos. And boy, kids at the school literally would pay anything for a breakfast taco. So somehow I ended up as the treasurer of the Spanish club, and I don't know what we did with the money, but we made a shit ton of it. And I also gained a lot of weight because I ate a lot of breakfast tacos too. And then I also learned a little bit about family life and maybe how to be a better brother and a future husband, because my teacher liked to start each class off with a little telenovela, if you will, of her own life, which mostly included complaining about her husband and her oldest son, who I learned from them that you really got to pick up around the house. You need to be attentive to your wife when she gets home from work, and other important life lessons that later I would put into practice. So as you're picking up, I didn't learn a ton of Spanish, but that's okay. I wasn't too into it. I was in high school, right? So graduate, and in college, again, I started using that, going back to the vocabulary word piropos, started using that a little bit more. And a girl I was flirting with that I liked had signed up for a Spanish class. And so I thought, well, I like her, so I'll sign up for Spanish. I've done a little bit, maybe I'll like it. Well, I'm really glad she signed up for a class called elementary level Spanish, because that was about my proficiency level. I could really dialogue really well with 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, so I excelled in that class. And again, it kept this Spanish theme going, right? So after college, my parents were like, "Look, we know you're into Spanish. We know you want to learn more. For a graduation gift, we're going to send you down to Costa Rica and do a Spanish immersion school and live with a host family. So I thought, oh, that's cool. That'll be fun, you know. So I get to my host family's house, and really I'm looking around at everybody, and no one speaks English, and I'm, you know, obviously not very fluent in Spanish. So I'm having a great dialogue with the 3-year-old, right? But with everyone else, we're playing a mad game of charades. I'm really acting it out. Everything I need, want, right? And the school was right down the street, so I could walk there. And so my host family was telling me the night before school started that they would have cafe for me in the morning, and I was excited about that. I thought, God, these people are so nice. They're gonna take me out to breakfast, you know, the first day of school. Well, it turns out with my lack of vocabulary of Spanish, that cafe means coffee, and I had never had coffee before. And so here I am waking up in the morning. I've got a 28-ounce tall mug of coffee. I don't want to be rude. These people are nice. They're hosting me, you know. And so I got down this cup of coffee, but it was bitter and hard to do. And I was, as I did school and I was walking back and forth, I also realized that I learned another vocabulary lesson because I kept seeing a sign for parquet, and I thought, you know, I really want to explore more in Costa Rica, and I've done some traveling, but like I've missed this park that's really right down the street, so I need to take some time and go check it out. So I'm walking down one day, and I head off to the park, following the signs, and I'm walking around. I get there, and there's tons of cars there. I'm like, man, this is popular. I've been missing out this whole time. This great park is here. So I'm walking around, and I'm realizing there's a lot of gravel. I'm not really seeing a lot of green space, but you know, maybe I'm missing it, right? Maybe it's back there. I'm walking around. It turns out I walk in a circle, and I realize the ticket booth that I thought was an entrance ticket to the park was actually, he was laughing at me as I walked up to pay, because realizing in the moment that I had just walked into a parking lot, which is another word for that in Spanish. And so again, the journey was continuing, right? But the thing is that I kept going. I didn't give up. There was still more to learn, still things to do. So in fact, I got to use that piropos word again when I was taking a class in Loudoun County through adult education about Spanish, because I wanted to keep learning. At that point, I was working in my job with a majority Spanish-speaking population of kids, and so I wanted to talk a little bit more to them. So I was taking that class, and I actually met my future wife, during that class. And so again, I used a little piropos to make that happen. And I also used a little more Spanish vocabulary with her because she had a perro, which is a dog. And so when she was taking these graduate classes, I would go hang out with their dog, and which helped out a little bit and probably led to a yes to the proposal, among other things. And so between work, also getting to talk to more coworkers and their kids and using Spanish, looking back on it, again, I'm not much taller than 5'2" now, and I'm not the most proficient, but it's the story and the journey along the way that counts. So, thank you.